Okay, welcome to Elevator World's webinar series. I'm T. Bruce McKinnon, the president of Elevator World and your host for today's webinar. Today's webinar is presented by FieldBoss and theResco.net. The topic is leveraging mobile to reduce elevator contracting risk. The speaker for today's webinar is Jonathan Tobe, president of Rimrock Corporation and the developer of FieldBoss software. Jonathan is a CPA and certified Microsoft technology specialist with over 20 years of experience in business system implementations. For the past 7 years, Jonathan's focus has been on helping independent elevator contractors. In today's webinar, Jonathan will explain how to mitigate your elevator contractor risk by leveraging the Resco mobile platform so you can get more out of both your staff as well as your clients. Resco is a global leader in developing cross-platform mobile software solutions with more than 2,500 corporate customers and 200,000 plus licensed users. Resco is a successful partner in helping customers to expand their business. During today's presentation, I'd like to encourage you to post your questions in either the question and answer section or the chat box. After the presentation, we'll be more than happy to answer any of your posted questions. Jonathan, you may begin the presentation.
Thanks, T. Bruce. I assume everyone can see the PowerPoint slide now. So what I'm going to do today is talk about a little bit about our backstory, quickly give everyone context, explain what we see as the major elevator contractor risk categories that are out there for all of us. And then we're going to show 3 examples of how we can get ahead of those off our mobile platform. And then, be open to questions, of course. Expect to get through the first 3 parts here in about 15 minutes, 20 tops. So we won't take up too much time of everyone's busy day, but really appreciate the fact that you're giving us your attention this morning. In terms of where we're coming from, the roots of this organization were in Microsoft Dynamics Consulting. We have had a lot of success over the years, and we got into the elevator space around 6 years ago with our product FieldBoss, which is now up to about 1,200 users and growing steadily. We have a complementary product out now for the contractors on our platform called Elevator 365, and that allows you, the users of FieldBoss, to expose things to their customers that you'd expect around like service tickets and modernization, status updates, and things like that. Our typical customer is generally coming to us off a manual system of some sort. That's typically the case. They're kind of wanting to sort of get off the ground once they've sort of hit a certain critical mass. They're often on non-elevator industry software systems, or they've tried to rig it up their own with Excel and stuff. Most of our work's coming off of some of the older products out there, Total Service mostly, but I would say it's probably about a 50-50 split. And the reason why we feel we're like a little different, the major aspect for us is the configurability of our platform. Not every company is sort of structured the same at all, stages in their evolution. So our ability to adapt to how you guys want to work is something that we can do with our platform. We have extensive functionality around safety testing, violation management, maintenance billing, automation. So there's a lot of very specific functionality that has been driven by our customers. And that results in really strong reporting and views. We have accounting system options now. We're like QuickBooks and Microsoft Dynamics. And for us, the whole thing is in the Microsoft cloud. So the security is quite strong. And Microsoft and Resco are innovating so rapidly that we really just need to focus our efforts on the industry needs around all the trends that are hitting everybody so fast. In terms of what I'm going to show you today, it's all based on the Microsoft platform. So we make extensive use of Office 365 as well as the business applications for sales and service and accounting. Document management is embedded within, and key to the whole thing is the Resco mobile platform that we use, as everything here of the Microsoft world is extended onto the phones because of the integration of the Resco platform with the Microsoft platform. As I said, upcoming this year, we're going to have an integration with Procore Construction Management, which should be of interest to contractors that do very large construction projects and are subs for general contractors. There's quite a lot happening there for us. But basically, it's this whole stack, and the configurability of it lets us sort of adapt to what the customers bring to us. In terms of our mobile app, which will be the focus now on this talk, yes, we to track service tickets. We the guys know where they're supposed to be, what's going on in the building, what's happening with the elevator, what was done last. But they can definitely do a lot more off our phone with respect to being accountable for safety texting, Cat 1s, Cat 5s, as I said, violation management, as well as we have very configurable checklists, which I'll show you, that allow you to enforce procedures, and what we're going to get into are safety procedures and sort of task management. The thing about our mobile that's important is it works on Android or iOS, phone or any form factor is fine. And we want to kind of emphasize that actually going offline in mobile is not just because they're in the pit. If you're using your mobile to really gather data and take in a lot of stuff, it's a much better user experience to actually go offline and then sync up when you're sort of ready. So the ResCo platform does that, and it's something that like the Microsoft platform never did it natively, which is why we went with ResCo from day one. Okay, so switching gears into risk. Elevator businesses are basically annuity machines. A maintenance contract is something that just generates cash flow, as does, say, a guy in the field. And like any investment, you really want to have your fingers on like what can go wrong, which is a lot in this industry. We've got sort of risk organized into 4 buckets, and they're not really in any order of like magnitude. They all sort of count depending on what's going on in your life. The first one we've got listed is just leaving money on the table. The most popular feature we have on our mobile is the recommendation capability, where you can turn something that a field staff member sees into like an invoice. So we're going to show how we can sort of turn that around rather than wait for them to get it back to the office. And, sort of when it's the heat of the moment, the guy's in front of the customer, you can monetize that pretty quickly. So we feel that's an area when people buy our product that they can earn a return on very quickly. And the other side of that is actually having sort of a higher cost to doing like a repair or a maintenance contract or whatever. If you're better connected to the field, we think we can sort of mitigate that risk. Risks can be categorized as compliance types. So there's like regulatory risk around, Department of Building type bodies that are, basically finding building owners and contractors, and that's propagating throughout America and Canada. We've got capabilities there. Also, just warranty, complying with warranty or maintenance procedures is something that, if you do that right and you're maintaining the elevator properly, like there's no drama both with the manufacturer or your customer. And then there's just customers wanting to make sure that you did the work, they thought you were going to do, that you probably did, but, proving it and all that, and sort of fighting over like getting paid for work that was done is something that shouldn't happen if we have like sort of the right connection between field staff, elevator, customer, contract, and contractor. And then there's the general risks around safety, and there's lots there to talk about. A really important, costly thing to a customer or a contractor is going to be like losing a key employee, or even like a good field tech, or losing a key customer. If there's things we can do to get ahead of that, that's like quite helpful. And then general, like, I guess it all boils up to like, do we want to get into like a lawsuit, especially if they're frivolous? We feel we've got a lot in our product to like shut the door on those effectively. But for today, given the time, I'm going to show you 3 examples that give you a feel for what can be done with the ResCo platform. And what I'm going to do is demonstrate live somebody clocking into a service call, doing his PPE check, doing another safety check, and then documenting that and actually sharing that with the customer, followed by a checklist around an MCP type of obligation around looking at a hydraulic elevator and also documenting that. And then I'll finish with just how we turn a field recommendation into a quote. So with that, I'm going to switch off the PowerPoint and go to the mobile device. And here we have an example of a configuration that we show people for a field tech. This could be configured any way you like. It could be done for a salesperson, a contractor owner, or it could be a field supervisor. But in this example, we've got it set up for the guy in the field to do his job. And the way we work is that you basically give access via an email and a password. It's hitting the Microsoft cloud, and it pushes out a configuration based on their role. And you can have the system like basically ping the phone as frequently as you like, so the phone's always up to date with what you want your guy to do. So typically you're going to have a service calendar up. There's going to be lots of statuses of what's going on. We have the ability to see what's going on in the field on a map, so we can flip quickly and see the different sort of places people are supposed to be and those statuses. And in this example here, the guy in the field can have like different views of where he's supposed to be as well. And we can configure this in a way that works best for your people. In this example here, we're seeing tickets maybe for maintenance, his open maintenance for the month. They can see that on a map. We can display this anyway. They can see an agenda. But what I'm going to do is jump into a ticket, and we're going to go clock in and do some work. So I'll search for a ticket that's already got some data in it. Whoops. So here we have a maintenance ticket at 46 Mercer Street. There is a 46 Mercer Street in every other city in America and Toronto, where I'm based out of right now. So what would happen is he'd basically open his ticket. He'd see where he needs to go. If the procedures are such, he'd get an overview of what he's supposed to do. In this example, let's go do a 3-month MCP on it, fill out the job hazard assessment first. So he'll clock in. Again, like we can do this any way you would like your people to touch the phone, but basically they'll clock into the, work for the start their day, and they'll mark their arrival time. And then the first thing they're going to want to do in this example is to fill out like a form that they sort of did their PPE procedure. So in the example here, it's going to be pre-filled. And what he would just go down here is like click through the prescribed procedures that you have for, say, PPE. And the reason I'm bringing up PPE is because we had a client who was servicing retirement homes, and early on in the pandemic, this became like a major issue right away. So we were able to rig this up. I took a picture yesterday of myself with a mask on because I can't share my video with the mobile while I'm on a Zoom call. So this is what I was wearing yesterday. But the bottom line is you go through this thing, you mark it all up, and then as you save it, what will happen is in the office, you can actually, here's the service ticket that was on the phone, and you've got like all the details here that are partially on the phone, including this tab for inspections. And then here, when he saved the PPE assessment, it actually showed up here against the ticket as one of the checklists he did for that service call. And if I open this up, you can actually see behind the scenes that there's sort of like question groups you can create. You can have the specific questions, and you can then actually create a document that spits it out. So the whole idea is like while he's out there documenting that he did these procedures, you can either just save it in the office as proof, or if you want to sort of email it to your customer, there's ways to get that out the door. I can just attach it to the invoice when we bill the client for the service call, and that would just show up here as a output like this. So it would just have a simple I did my hard hat, my mask, here's my proof, and please pay the service call like you said you would. So that's the first example. Second one is continuing along on that service call. We're in there, doing our work. So maybe he documented what he did when he got there. All 3 elevators are running on arrival, as they say. And with our product and the platform, we could do a simple speech to text, and he can just talk to the phone, and it'll sort of write it up that he's doing a 3-month MCP. And then what we have to show that we did the work there is another library of checklists that you can have on here. So if you wanted to see sort of like what that can look like, we've got some air conditioning stuff in here as well if you guys are getting into chillers. But you can see here we can have a whole library of MCP type tasks for however it is you want to do these things. So here we've got 2 electrical elevators, 3 hydraulics, and a full. So in the example here, the tech would have gone in and he would have filled this out, and I'll find one that's sort of done. So in the example here, again, it's, oops, I picked the wrong one. Sorry. Okay, so this one here you can see is broken up into different aspects of the installation. And again, it's pre-filled. There's, he can basically start documenting what he did. And you could, in the office, you would be setting these up so that they would be pushed out to the phone with the values that you want them to record. These could be like simple lookups. They can be values that they record, like they could be readings. I mean, obviously you can take pictures and so on and so forth. And pretty quick to like sort of go through and sort of show that you did a good job. And then in the office, it's the same kind of thing. You're on the service ticket. You've got sort of what you're supposed to be doing. You've got, sort of what the guy's recorded on his time ticket. And then if you go into the inspections here, you've got, again, the MCP type questionnaires filled out for the different devices on Mercer Street. So if I maybe click into one of these things, again, you can see the question groups, as I showed you a minute ago, as well as the questions that go with it. Lots of information here, and we can query this and do all kinds of views as to, like, if you wanted to find out which cars aren't stopping accurately over the last 6 months, like that's like 3 seconds to find. And what we can do here again is we go back to our document creation capability. And again, we can include that in an invoice. We can email that directly to the customer. And if I just go here and click here, I'll get rid of that. Here you can have an example output of that MCP work that was done. And the question is, do you want to like hold that to yourself, or do you want to share that with the customer? Customers like to have records, especially if they're using multiple contractors. So we think this gives our client base a little bit of an edge because they can, do a much better job with transparency to the customer. There you go. You've got beautiful pictures of a very clean elevator and handle on the phone still there, which is nice. No vandalism, and the cleanest elevator top I've ever seen in my life. So again, when we talk about risk, how is this risk related? Well, lots of things are happening here. The staff members being accountable for his work. The back office is able to sort of, keep tabs on the guys in a supportive way. And more importantly, we can have the customers feel that they're getting what they're paid for. And then there should be no issue getting what, you committed to, which is like paid on that service call. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show now is, like I said, probably the most popular thing we've got in our system is we're going to show how we can convert a service call into a quote and an invoice. So if I look up another ticket, here we're doing some maintenance on West Broadway. And while we were out there, maybe what would have happened was while he was doing the maintenance, something might have come up when he was doing his work. And I am not seeing what I'm supposed to see here. Oh, here we go. Okay. So he got there, the elevator's running on arrival, but he couldn't get the key in the key switch. So he inspected it, needs repair, and he's just recommending that we do a replacement there. So what happens from here is, just by virtue of the fact that he filled out this recommendation form, in our system, what happens is, sorry, I have to like move my browser down because the Zoom menu is covering things up. Okay, I think I can make this work. Okay, so here's our maintenance ticket, and it's got all the things you would expect to have on it. And what we have on our maintenance ticket is a field request. So when he filled out that recommendation, we've got a field request noted that we need a quote. And that shows up in our system here. You've got a view of all the different guys and all the different types of field requests. And we can see the first one at the top shows field request 451 West Broadway. So what would happen is the sales department or the operations team would see this, and the next thing they would do is create like a sales opportunity for that thing. And it could be, a repair or replace, maybe it's a whole modernization. But if the field tech is in the building and the property manager is right in front of him and he sees the problem, the guy saves the recommendation, it goes right to sales. Sales goes right here and creates a quote, and you can have templates so it doesn't have to like type this all from scratch. And basically, we're going to quote the customer on $1,000 worth of work plus tax, 3 hours worth of labor and a part. And then from here, they simply go to create document. And that's going to launch a template manager, which will give you all kinds of different options for what you want that document to look like. And when you do that, the next thing you can, so what do you want to happen? Like the best thing that you can do is just email it to the building owner or whoever approves this thing. So you have options here to email as content or as an attachment, and I'll show you that in a minute. You can have this integrated with DocuSign so that they can just click and approve, and then you keep going. So in here, when you click open the local client, you have options for the email recipients, so on and so forth. And you click next on that. And what ends up happening is the quote gets created either in Word, so you can further edit this, or it can go off as a PDF, so it can't be changed, and it just gets attached to an email. Or the example that I've got on screen is that it can also go out within our system as an email with the attachment here, and in the body of the email, you can see the same stuff. So again, risk of leaving money on the table. If you start gamifying work and get everybody to earn little points or beers as they feed the business, ideas for sales, like that's all happening on this phone here. And literally within 5 minutes, you can get that quote out the door and, sort of add to the value of that maintenance contract. So that's the bulk of my demo right now, just to sort of talk about, reflecting on all of that. This all works because the mobile device can be configured in a way that they don't feel that we're tracking them, that they're sort of designed to make them fail or, look stupid. There's lots of ways we can sort of work with people. We actually have really high adoption with the field staff. Even with union shops, it's even usually better than the independents for some reason. And we kind of position the phone as an electronic apprentice that's sort of integrated with the process, and they're all in it together, as they say. And then we start putting in dashboards and views for the field staff that gamifies work for them, and it works great. And it's all because, again, like I can't emphasize this enough, our mobile platform has saved the day for a number of our customers during the pandemic, and it's probably our strongest aspect of our system, I would say, other than maintenance billing. So as long as and I guess our message to the audience is using software or apps that are locked down that you have to adjust for how they work is not good in this crazy world that's moving so fast. Platforms are the way to go. It's a double-edged sword because you have to, there's more risk around having more of a custom system, but we think that working the way you need to work for your staff and your customers pays dividends in the long run. And given that the industry is in so much flux, configurability has been like a godsend for us. So with that, I'll put up follow-up information here around how to get in touch with me or us if you have questions. Sorry, I forgot to do that last part full screen. And with that, I'll bring it back to T. Bruce for questions or anything that anyone wants to understand better I can address.
Terrific. Great. Jonathan, really, really informative presentation. And we've got a few questions on the chat. I've got some questions myself. Actually, I'm interested in knowing, I think you said earlier on, when you are, most of your clients are going from more of a manual process, what does it take to convert a customer, to the FieldBoss?
Oh, okay. Well, it's sort of like painting a house. It's all in the prep. So what we do is I'm just going to call up a view here. We basically have wiring diagrams that we apply to new jobs. So this example here is a billable service call, and we've got these what they call swim lanes of who's doing what in the business. So in a smaller operation, the dispatcher, the operations manager, service manager could be one person. Or it could be, as you get larger, people are more focused on their roles. So this could be multiple people. So the first thing we do before you have to buy anything is we plan how you're going to work going forward. We look at how you're working now, but the emphasis is on where's the money? What can we do to solve the headaches and actually get ahead of risk? So we modernize your operation and rewire your sort of workflow, and we try and get the system to do as much as it can. That usually takes us it's pretty quick. Like, you guys all earn your money the same way. So it can be done within a month, depending on how busy you are. And then from data migration to go live will vary between 2 and 4 months, depending on what you're coming off of and what problems, how dysfunctional you are. It's all kind, there's a lot of variability, but we try and get jobs done. 2 or 3 months is comfortable. 2 is fast. 3 is good. 4 is good for complex. 5 and 6, we're being really careful. So I hope I answered the question. Takes about, it varies, but there's comfortable times that, you don't want to, you don't want the cure to kill the patient, as they say.
Sure, sure. I think just having a workflow like that is a real value added process as well. I mean, some companies may not have looked at how their processes are going in that detail. So that in itself is a real value.
We have them for after hours, for modernization billing, AI billing. We have a whole library of them that we update for every release.
Okay. A few questions on the chat. Let's just get to, I've got some other questions myself, but it looks like Brett has a question about how does the system handle government inspection deficiencies?
We have in our system in service, we have like a whole violation tracking and defect tracking, which is, this is actually New York City centric, but basically you can see here, like if we can track the progression of a violation or, like whatever the government will do. They'll come in, they'll tell you something. So basically you're logging it as an ID, you'll give an ID number or they'll give it an ID number. And then we've got like a status. So you will sort of have a progression of where things are in like how you need to handle this with the regulatory body and your customer. So in the example here, we've logged it. We're maybe quoting it with the customer, or maybe it's on us, and we're just doing an internal work order for it. We have to get the customer approval on it, perhaps, or who knows who we have to arrange things with, schedule the work, and then we will have a status where we've done the work, we've reviewed the work, and we've submitted it to the regulatory body. So this is something we were actually talking about before the webinar, is doing like a specific presentation just on this. It's sort of like contact management for regulatory bodies in terms of their process. Hopefully that explains it. And we have a similar thing for tracking Cat 1s and Cat 5s here. Okay. Hopefully that answered the question. I don't know.
Okay. What about how does it work with, say someone's got a different system or some other software? How can the system work with it?
Well, ResCo, as you mentioned in the preamble there, it's a platform that stands alone unto itself. So they do work with other software products, but what the challenge you're going to face is we have all this woven together. So we've got, for example, if you go into our system, we've got, say, like buildings, it's configured a certain way, right? And then we've got all the devices that go with it. So just as an example, like when you look at an elevator, hoistway information and doors and cabs, all that's on the phone. So you can't really bolt this on and have it it's like a big Rubik's Cube. So it's very difficult to like just take the platform and wire it up to what you're using today, because there's 1,000 integration points, and that's where we invested our money. So the technical answer is you can do it, but you're going to have to wire this all up yourself. And our sort of value proposition is for the license fee, all that's done, and we keep it sort of current and maintain it. So I hate to say it, but the answer is it'd be really difficult, but you can use it as a standalone. You just would lose a lot of the automation and workflow.
All right. All right. What about, looks like we've got someone asking about, will the system create, document, and give access to the MCP?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Hold on. And in terms of giving access, that's like, how do you, what does that mean? We can email that automatically. We can put it into a portal. You can, that's what we have to understand, is how do you want your customers to see that, and when do you want them to see that? So it's not enough. We get some of these consultants that want real-time access to everything as soon as the guy goes to the bathroom, he wants to know. And there's no way. Things have to be vetted. It's just irresponsible and unreasonable to expect a contractor to just pass the staff over to the customer. So there's usually way more to the story with these questions, and giving access, and we'll challenge people on what they want sometimes because it could be bad for their health.
All right. We've got another question here from Kirk. It looks like he's asking about kind of go over accounting integration and specifically with QuickBooks.
Okay, I can call up a diagram here. So, so this slide here explains, I don't know if, okay, so here we go. I've got 3 monitors and everything I want to show is all coming up on the wrong monitor. So with accounting, we have our own accounting here, but what you do with QuickBooks is this, just replace this with QuickBooks. And we're basically when we're talking about integration with accounting, you're talking about all the customer information, the names, price lists, tax schedules, products, POs, inventory, time cards, and invoicing. There's a lot going on back and forth in real time. So when you're on like a non-integrated solution of ours, we're basically running things back and forth using Excel templates. And depending on whether you're on QuickBooks premise or online or some other accounting product, we're basically, you're billing out of here, and we're creating views of the invoices, views of the time approvals that get dumped into the accounting product. So it's a sort of a back and forth import export, and works pretty well. It's becoming more and more popular. We are investing in the QuickBooks integration tools. There's one embedded in it, and there's a third-party one that's pretty interesting. So QuickBooks is definitely where we want to be for a segment of our client base, and and you can grow into the fully integrated system with us later if you like.
All right. How about talk a little bit about what the FieldBoss product costs?
Well, that's a really good question. I think there's an entry point. I think you need like a $20,000 budget to get your system modernized, and we're talking about like a 10-user, 5-user system with strong people that can do some of the work themselves, and not, you need people that can move things around on a spreadsheet and import data and help us get that done. And we need people that know how they want to work. And if it's, a situation where no one's really in charge and we got to like run the place for a couple of weeks, that, adds to the cost. But we really do work backwards from people's budgets, because it's like, there's no like one size fits all. There's no standard scope of work. I mean, we basically have to get the accounts, the buildings, the elevators in. We got to set up the maintenance contracts. We got to get the mobile going. We've got to get the quotes or the estimates and the invoices formatted. We've got to get it hooked up to your Microsoft Office instance. So there's a space level amount of work, but we actually work backwards from your budget. We'll term it out a little bit if it helps with cash flow and get you. We do invest in clients, especially the ones that are sort of, growing. But I think, typically jobs are, $20,000 to $25,000, and there's a tranche of work that's around 40 or 50, and then you get into like 75, and then we've done jobs that were well into 6 figures. We meet the market where they're at.
Okay. Very good, very good. So what about the mobile aspect? Is that adaptable? Can the company adjust that themselves, or they have to contact you guys or Resco or what?
Okay, so the best clients we have staff that are resourceful. Given this whole Microsoft platform that we're on, like it's all built to work with Office and Excel, and it extends to mobile. So you can do like field changes. You can change labels. You can create what we call automation. So these flows here, these sort of business process automations that create alerts and things, you can do yourself. So you create a flow here. If you wanted to like create a dashboard, again, like the system's built to, you just go new here and it'll give you like a wizard, and then you can be off to the races and do your own thing. So we want clients that do this stuff themselves and not be beholden to us. I've got actually a really good example here of what someone did in our client base. I won't say who it is, and I'm going to scroll through it fast, but they basically had a listing. Here's a grid view of some project work they're doing for elevator quoted work. And the integration with Excel gave them like Gantt charting and load balancing and looking at backlogs and stuff. So this was done by pretty senior elevator guy, not a technical person in terms of like Office and stuff. So the whole idea is to extend the Microsoft platform to give yourself views as to what's going on in your business. Here's a view of sort of the client mix and stuff. I'm hiding the customer name, but it's really amazing what the customers are coming up with without us. And we regularly get like, they did what, moments. Usually they're pretty good. Sometimes they're heart attack inducing.
Nice, very nice. One other question here. It says, is 10 users, 10 field, I'm sorry, my question went away. 10 users, is 10 users 10 field employees plus office staff, or is 10 office staff plus field employees? I guess.
No, when I say 10 users, it's the whole company. Like, I just look at employees that are putting data into the system. We don't have a minimum. Like, we've got some pretty small guys. We had one customer go from 5 to 50 in 2 years. So we'll take anybody as long as we feel we can work together and move them forward.
What about accepting payments? How do payments work? Can that be done on site, or how's that work?
Yeah, that's a residential thing mostly. And the system's really geared for commercial. But what you end up doing is we can configure the ticket to like, basically they can work with Square or something like that, swipe a credit card. What's hard with that is like on a residential service call, if they go in there and they change a battery and they got to order more parts and the job's still open, sort of taking payment and sort of applying it partway through a job that's open and hasn't been billed is tricky. So we do a lot in the office, but just swiping a card and getting that data into the accounting department and then going from there, we've had some good success with.
All right. How about, does FieldBoss like work with the customer portal?
Yeah, so we have a few ways to do that. One way is to enable your customer to basically have an app that's branded as your business, and you would just publish sort of the things you want them to see. Also, this Microsoft Power Platform, if you go into the apps, they have out of here, we build portals right out of something called Power Apps, and we're just in the middle of getting one done for a client that I think we're going to be able to recycle for the rest of the industry. So what happens is we take this, we build views just like this dashboard here, and we configure these views just for customer use. So an example here could be they could sort of see all their service calls or things like that. So we build it custom, but we're trying to do something that can be like a starting point template for everybody else. Be web-based, and again, it's like, what do you want to give your customer? We can usually go there.
All right, very good, very good. We've got a couple of more questions on the chat here. Do you have a training system for learning how? I'm sorry, the chat keeps popping away from me. Do you have a training system for learning how to make use of the system?
Yeah, we have. It's really tricky. We basically are very hands-on, and we train the power users and then train the trainer type of thing. We record things. We record all our training sessions for the customers so that their staff can watch them. What we don't have is like, here's how you do a service call, because everybody does it a little different. We have something, and our clients are expected to be able to sort of take like a basic way of doing something and understanding how it's a little different for them. Some clients are better at that than others, but they do get there eventually. And once you get used to the system, things happen a lot more intuitively. So we have videos, we've got diagrams, we've got narratives, we've got good people to walk you through it. But unfortunately, it's not, like I said, it's not a lockdown system that you just do everything the same way. So it's kind of custom. We just found there's just sort of no getting around this. But we, as time goes by, we record more and more content. And, we offer an awful lot of support after go live. You don't just go live and like you're done. We actually budget quite a lot of time for post go live support and stabilization.
Okay, tell us a little bit about how you guys handle safety. I mean, safety is a really important topic in the industry. Tell us a little bit about that.
You're talking about safety, like not Cat 1 safety tests, but like Just
Yeah.
having you guys go in and document like the their procedures. Like, like we've got here's like a bunch of
Uh,
different like
oh
categories.
yeah, job hazard.
I'm sorry.
Job hazard. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
So, okay, so what you can do is this is all configurable by the company. So you will have your categories, there could be confined space as an example, right? So you will dictate what you want your guys to do or not do. And these are also dynamic. So when you click on one of these things, it could launch a whole nother series of events depending on the answer. So the bottom line is you will create like, all these different sort of types of questions that are applicable to you, and then we can have it such that if they don't do something, they can't go on. If there's a near miss, this could trigger an email to somebody. So it's completely configurable to how you want to handle safety. And some of our customers have very, very extensive safety procedures. They're very, very, very proud of what they do. And sort of been a dream to just have like the perfect thing here for everybody that we could sort of help with our safety efforts within the industry. But we got our hands full just getting the time in and the bills out the door.
The product seems really, really adaptable, which I think is very valuable to the industry. A few other questions here. One from Richard says, can this be used with the ISO 8100 standards?
Yes.
Okay. How do you dispatch technicians for callbacks and entrapments?
There's a couple ways to do that. It's like, I throw it back to you. How do you dispatch for callbacks and because that's what we do, right? So one way to do this is we can have something called cases here. So, here we've got some Spanish because we're doing a job in Chile. But, here you got an entrapment on the 19th floor, elevator down, flood in the pit, so on and so forth. So what can happen here is if there's an entrapment, second someone types entrapment and goes save, that can actually launch automation to have whatever you want to happen. That's an extreme case, but that can do a lot of different things. So that's part of the platform and the automation with these flows. So a flow is like automation, and it'll show you here, like you can just basically create things that happen as a result of things that go in the form. So right here, you can, if you type entrapment, it can right away create a ticket, which will go right on the phone, or if it's an after hours situation, like, how does it get handled? You can have the on-call guy in the field basically just get a ticket right on his phone from the service, whoever's doing the monitoring. So instead of creating a case, they can case type would be entrapment. I'm not sure if that's on this example here, but you would have, so I guess my answer is you can record it as a case and then have things happen, or you can go right to the phone, depending on what time it happens, who initiates it. You may want to give your customer like a way to put something in on your website that just sends an email to somebody. So there's lots of ways we can handle it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then we also had, I had a call last weekend about us integrating to some company that does phones. So the idea would be that you pick up the phone and it would actually fill out a case right away. We have a customer in Glasgow doing that. So if they've got the right stuff on the device, we can actually fill out like the device ID, and you could even capture like the WAV file if we can get it. So we've got a lot of companies wanting to feed our system, both telemetry off the elevators as well as the phone thing came up, and it was really interesting. See,
Right.
Origin phone. The Origin here, like they could tweet you, I'm stuck in the elevator, help.
Right.
The problem with that is you get like a bunch of drunk college students that knowing about this, and then you got another problem. So everything's a double-edged sword.
All right. Well, we're running up on our time. Anything else you want to mention, Jonathan, before we wrap it up?
Just if you're interested, call us. Love to talk about this stuff all day long. Everything's done like bespoke to your organization, and we love to learn about how you guys all work. And
Terrific, Jonathan. Thanks for this excellent and informative presentation in regards to mitigating your elevator contractor risk. We really appreciate everyone attending. Obviously, you can learn more at fieldboss.com. Also, each of the attendees, you will receive a follow-up email with all contact information to reach out to Jonathan, as well as a link to this webinar so you can rewatch this webinar and then, of course, reach out to Jonathan. We really appreciate everybody attending and hope you guys have a great rest of the afternoon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, take care.